Good evening and welcome to another Monday night here at This Week in Digital Parenting with me, Joshua Ramsey. I hope you've had a good day and well done for getting through another week. These days and weeks are kind of molding into one never-ending day, it feels like to me. So, well done for getting through another week. And tonight, as it is the end of the day, I'm wanting to really focus in on one small piece of advice, something for you to think about as digital parents. And as we are all about practical solutions, I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time looking at a very practical resource that you as parents can use. And this week, tonight, we are talking about age restrictions, we're talking about content control, we're talking about age appropriate content. And this is a point of interest that I get a lot from parents. They're wanting to know what is okay, what is not okay. And the topic for this episode really came out of last week, where the mum who asked me about her 10-year-old being stuck in her phone and whether or not she should do something about that really sat with me. That perhaps it is necessary to take parents back to the very beginnings of assessing what their children have access to and making sure that they are making informed decisions about what their children are able to do on these incredible phones and devices that they have access to. Okay, so we're going to get quite broad on this topic. I'm going to talk to you about some broader concepts to keep in mind as you decide what content your children have access to. And then, as I said, we're going to focus in, laser focused on one practical solution that you can take home and that you can use to help you in your digital parenting role. So, before we go any further, I want to talk to you a little bit about how age regulation happens. So, generally, there's probably three major categories of ways in which your children are interacting with content in the form of screens that they have access to. That's through movies and TV shows, through apps, which can be games, or kind of more entertainment, one-way interactions, or through games that you'd buy through normal channels, like going to Incredible Connection, buying a game that comes on a CD and installing that on your child's computer. And really, it is when these platforms create these products that they want to take them to market, they want to distribute them out to all of these users, of which your child is one. And they have to get stamps of approval to set the appropriate level of content, in terms of what they have on the platform. And it's only when these games and movies reach these distribution networks that they need to get these stamps of approval, whether that's through the Electronic Software Ratings Board, or here in South Africa, the Film and Publications Board. But suffice to say that traditionally, and I use that word more in a kind of retrospective view, that if these platforms or these content providers wanted to distribute out, they had to get these stamps of approval to get access to the marketplace. Nowadays, not so much, because you have direct access to the App Store, to the Google Play Store, and who knows what's going to happen with the Hawaii Store when that comes online as well. But your children and you as a consumer have direct access to the content creators themselves. And particularly with apps, the app developers themselves are very often the very same individuals who put the ratings onto their device or onto their product that they've created. Obviously, this is a conflict of interest, because the lower they can make that age regulation, the more of a market they have and the more users they'll engage, which will in turn return them with the more money they'll earn. So it's not a foolproof system. And as parents, we cannot rely on these third-party organizations to tell us what is appropriate and not appropriate. And I think this leads into a much deeper moment of reflection, and it's one which you can turn over to your children. But first, as a parent, I think it's important that you consider what values are important in your home. What are the values that you want to be known for as a family? I was attending a webinar by Nikki Bush, one of South Africa's most amazing speakers, who talks about human potential and parenting. And she put it along these lines. She said, you know, if you think of any of the major brands out there, what are the brands that come to mind? You know, immediately if I think of a brand, I don't know why, but I thought of Caterpillar, you know, the brand that does very outdoor, ruggedy, tough tools and machinery as well as clothing. You know, maybe you think of Lamborghini, you think of cars, and you think of, you know, Italian finely built machines that are good at going fast. So the point is that brands have values associated to them. And Nikki Bush is so great in the way she talks about this. Imagine your family, in the times when families could get together, went over to a braai at another family. You guys had a wonderful evening, and then you went home. What are the words that family that you visited, what are the words that those parents would exchange about your family? They're an adventurous family. They're a conflicted family. They're a humorous family. They're an integrous family. These values that define your family, and as Nikki Bush calls it, your family brand. So I recommend you go and check out her resources on that if you're interested in her take on it. But the point for tonight's talk is really that you need to be basing your content limitations, the categories or the age appropriateness of what your children want to be interacting with on your family's values. Because if we rely on these third party organizations to deliver these guidelines on a plate, we're really going to be missing the opportunity for families to develop what it is that is important to them. Now, in a moment, I'm going to take us to those websites and we're going to have a little look at some of the ways in which there's no way that they can actually deliver you this level of accuracy in terms of what you want to be appropriate for your child. And then finally, I'm going to leave you with one website that I think does it better than anyone else. So the first point of concern for a parent is really to preemptively, and we've spoken about this before, the value of going ahead and thinking about what's to come and trying to set up systems that can help you with that. So instead of waiting for your child to come to you and say, hey, I want to play Black Ops 5, or I want to play Fortnite or PUBG or one of the games that are out there that might be a little bit age inappropriate for them, and you having to say, well, what is that? Why do you want to play it? But rather having spent some time to think about what the values are that you want your family to be known for. And, you know, sometimes I must admit that even when parents come to me with difficult questions, they might ask me a question and I might just type it into Google myself and see what comes up. So the first point that I would point you to in this discussion and back and forth with you and your partner, or you if you're a single parent family, is to just Google values, top 10 family values, and for you to pick maybe 3 of them that you want your children to be known for, and then start to think about what are the limits that you want in place to make sure that those values are upheld. On the other hand, I really want to empower you as parents to put the ball in your children's court. You know, children come up to you as the authority figure and they say, Mom, Dad, can I? Should I? Is this okay? How do I do this? How do I do that? And of course, we're wanting to put the ball back in their court. We're wanting them to make choices, as we've spoken about in other videos, so that they can learn to deal with what happens from the consequence of their choices. So if they want to play a game, then put the ball back into their court. Can you bring me some information about why this game is going to help you, or what it's going to help you learn, or why it's important to you? And this leads to a really interesting dynamic that is happening nowadays, especially with online games and even with some social media platforms, is that it's not as simple as it may have been when we were youngsters growing up. And what I mean by that is that games these days are not only engaging and offering our children a way to develop self mastery and better their skill levels in terms of how they interact with this game, but they also offer a social platform where your children might not even want to play the game, but because their friends are playing the game, they need to be playing the game together to be in with the group, or maybe they actually like the chatting that happens within the game more than the game itself. So games are not simply as simple as they were in the past. So there's the game itself, there's the enjoyment that they may get from it, there's the socializing aspect that they may be experiencing while they play the game. And something that not a lot of parents actually think about is money and how a marketplace impacts your child's experience of a game. So, for example, if you want to play a game and you want to have the most modern skin or costume within that game, often you'll have to spend real money, and that will mean that your child comes running over to you and asks for a thumbprint to do something, and you are absent-mindedly doing whatever you're doing, and you simply put your hand over, and next thing you know, you see a charge come through on your phone or on your bank statement, or the fact that you've opened up the download of an app for your child and you may not have even known about it. So, if you've thought about these values before that moment arrives, you can then stop your child in their tracks and ask them about, what are the family values that this product that you're wanting to use, how does it help us as a family develop these values? Which obviously is something that you'd want to engage your more older children that have developed their ability to kind of conceptualize what a value is. Of course, for the younger ones, you're just going to need to put your foot down and put those limits in place. And the reason you need to put those limits in place, one of the big ones, is that unlike a puzzle or a book or even an audiobook, which requires some effort on the side of your child to imagine this world, to stay engaged, or if it's reading, to follow the lines along and to turn the pages and to stay engaged, or a puzzle, the first 10 pieces are easy, next 10 pieces not so easy to find, and the last 10 pieces are really a challenge. And all of those, that challenging aspect of staying engaged, is teaching your child how to develop grit and perseverance. And when we think of modern games, modern social media platforms, really they are designed for your children to exert little or no effort and get a big return. I've spoken about the thinking and feeling brain in past videos. If you want to see more about that, go back and check on our YouTube channel where I explain the difference between the two. But a question that you can ask yourself as you explore your child's game or movie that they're wanting you to give the thumbs up on is, how much work is it asking your child to do? Who is doing the doing? And app developers want nothing more than your child to be tied into their product and not do anything at all to earn the satisfaction that beating a level may make them feel, or interacting with the game may make them feel. So, you don't have to look very hard if you look at games that even adults enjoy, Candy Crush and those other kind of mindless games. You think of the words that come up with these games: mindless, numbing, zombie, binging. that they are all designed for us to not be able to put them down, and they do all the doing and convince us that we are incredible masters of this game when all we're doing is swiping something around. Um, and this really leaves your children at a very disempowered point where they are given the illusion that they are becoming masters of something. And this is such a crucial drive that we all have as human beings, that we want to develop, we want to master something, we want to get better at what we're doing. And very often, these games and services that we are opening our children to are sending a very different message, that you don't have to do anything. I'll do all the doing. All you need to do is give me your attention. And unfortunately, as adults, we know that putting your attention somewhere is not enough. You need to persevere. You need to push through discomfort. You need to use your will and make good choices. Okay, so the big teaching point for tonight is, have you thought about the values that you want your child to be picking up and developing through their screen time use? I was chatting to a mum recently who was talking to me about how when her grandson, or she was a grandmum, her granddaughter, sorry, was interacting with a very particular cartoon character. Um, the child would watch these cartoons kind of day in, day out, and would start to take on the mannerisms, the language tonality, the kind of attitude of this little princess character that was in the cartoon. And it got to the point that this grandmom had to say something about it, and the parents actually stopped their daughter from interacting with this character. And very soon, the child's character kind of reverted back to this more in aligned with their family's kind of personality. And I think it's just such a crucial example, such a great example of how absorptive our children are. I'm not sure absorptive is a word, but our children are like sponges, and they will pick up on the values of the media that they are engaging with. So if that means that your child is spending hours on end with earphones on, big screen, playing a survival based game with lots of loud noises and flashing lights, they are going to normalize to that and going to find the world around them doesn't really do them anything. They don't feel engaged by the natural world around them. This brings to mind a dad I was talking to who he took his son fishing, and you can imagine the scene. It's 7 o'clock in the morning, mist rising off the water, and he's there with his fly fishing rod and his son. What a pivotal moment, father and son fishing. And they cast the rod, and they're sitting there, minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4, 5 minutes. And eventually, this little youngster can't take it anymore. And he says to his dad, he says, Dad, if we had been playing Minecraft, I would have caught like 5 fish by now. And just that is such a clear example of the ways in which our children's expectations are molded by the content they consume. And if that content is not in line with your family values, then it's kind of expected that when your child starts showing up in this way that you don't expect, you you don't understand why. And so as parents, we need to be very aware of what it is we are letting our children be exposed to. This is not even thinking about the kind of cyberbullying or predation that happens online, the grooming, all of that's, way on this end of the spectrum. But all the way before it, you've got to think about the values that your children are picking up as they interact with these different content uh, mediums that they are engaging with. So hopefully I've painted enough of a picture that you as an adult would say, okay, I need to know more about the content that my children are consuming. So what do I do next? Well, I want to explain to you why relying on third-party organizations is the secondary option. As I've said, the first one is that your family values will guide you in terms of setting limits for your child and hopefully guide your child in terms of what it is they spend their time doing with their screens. So I'm going to take us to a few websites, and I want to show you some of the ways in which I think that we can't really rely on these forms of websites to define how we make our choices as parents, but they can inform. So if we have a look at this website, this is the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, and Fortnite, which is a first-person shooter game, is the game that I, as a parent, for example, am here to try and learn about. And what is the first thing I see along the top banner of this place that I've come to help me make my decision on whether or not I should let my child use this? Well, the first thing I see is 5 different ways in which I can buy this product. So already I think some alarm bells need to be going off that before I've even got any information, I'm already being given the ways in which I can get access to this product. So then we can see there's a little bit more information about the game itself. And, this is an action game in which players build forts, gather resources, craft weapons. It doesn't really tell me very much at all. And so as the first stop being, what are the values that this is teaching? And the way that you'd actually understand that is go and check it out yourself. Go on YouTube. What is Fortnite? And I guarantee you, you will see hundreds of videos of in-game gameplay where you can see what it's about, and you can actually come from a place of authority when your child asks you about it. You can say, well, why is it doing this? And why would you want to spend your time doing that? And really getting your child to think through why they want to be on this game or on this platform. Because it's that critical skill that is going to help them decide when you're not around and they're at their friend's house and there's pressure to make a video or to consume content or to play some game, that they will have the habit of critical thinking that you as a parent have instilled in them to get them thinking about how it is that they want to be using these various options that are available to them. Over here, we see closer to home the South African Film and Publication Board. We get onto the landing page. Obviously, a lot of it is about coronavirus. And what we see here, in terms of not only the functionality of the website, but the content in it, is that invariably there's a delay between when content is produced, whether it's a game or a new social media platform or a movie that comes out, and the regulation that responds to that content and gives it some stamp of age gating, really to say this is appropriate or not appropriate. And in that delay, so many things can happen. And it's in that delay that if you've had a preemptive conversation about your family values and started to get your child to think about why they want to play this game, and maybe helping them get to that why helps them realize that actually they just miss their friends. And maybe they just want to get on a group call using your phone on WhatsApp to connect with their friends. And that is actually the reason that they want to be playing this game or they want to be on that social media platform, is they just miss their friends. And this really comes to the crux of what we call emotional intelligence, the ability to name how you feel and to understand how certain actions result in how you feel so that you can make better choices about what you spend your time doing. Now, that being said, I want to take you to a platform or a website that we use most closely in terms of finding out about the various different forms of content that are out there. The website is called Common Sense Media, and you can check it out at commonsensemedia.org. And it's a really great platform that has been around for, I think the company is 15 years old or more. So even before social media was social media, they were having an opinion about what age categories certain products should be in. And what I like about it is that not only do they give you a review of what they say about it, but they also give you insights on what other parents are saying about this product or this service or game and what children say about it. So, for example, here we have TikTok, and they've given it a 15 plus, and their age ratings are based on how it impacts your child's developmental goals. So they have a whole team in place of educators and child development professionals who can relate to how the product will interact with your child's ability to meet developmental goals. So they've given it an age rating. More than that, they dig into some of the themes. So they'll tell you if there's, overtly sexual content or drug use, language use, violence. And so you can start picking into, do these content categories that this product is marked with, are they in alignment with our family's values? And if not, then you know what to do about it. In terms of some ways in which you can use screens in a very functional way with your children, um, we've created this resource which is available on our website, and particularly if you're watching on the live screen website, that's beintouch.org.za/live. It's called the Screen Time Mood Measure. And what this resource over here is that when your child is watching screens, I'm going to move it just slightly over so that you can see it a bit better. You can ask your child to complete this worksheet before and after screen time, so they can start to understand how their screen choices are making them feel. So they'll they'll plot themselves on the mood measure map. Maybe they feel angry, sad, or relieved, and then that's how they feel before screen time, and then how they feel after screen time, so that they can start to build their awareness of how the screens are making them feel. So that's a great resource that is available on our website, and if you are interested in that, please go and have a look. For the last few minutes here, because we're wanting to leave you with practical resources, I'm going to take a moment to dig into the Common Sense Media website. So you should have a full screen now of the Common Sense Media website, and I'm going to show you just a little bit of the functionality because I do think it is so worth checking out. So as you can see, you can check out movies here, you can check out TV reviews, and if you click on that, that'll show you a whole bunch of, oh, sorry about that, a whole bunch of movies or TVs that are now TV shows that are available, and you can make an educated decision on what is within those. So if you have a look here, here's Trying. We can click on that and we can start seeing more about this TV show. So there's language, there's some drinking, and it's a tween adoption drama. We can, oh, there we just had a pop-up that says stay ahead of your kid, get the latest reviews and recommendations. And this right here, this stay ahead of your kid, this talks to what I was referring to earlier in the form that we need to be preemptive. We need to get ahead of our children to understand what it is that they are asking of us. And if you don't understand what your child is talking to you about, you don't need to give them an answer. You can put the ball in their court. Tell them, go and find out more, send me an email, or bring me some more information about this app or this platform and why you need to be on it. If we bring our attention to here, we've got apps and games. So we've got the best app lists, we've got app reviews, where you click on that and you can see a whole bunch of different apps in there. You can choose by age group over here. So if you click on an age 10, then that should change the apps that are available here. So we can see Worms 3. And more than that, if you go back up to these menus up here, If you look at what parents need to know, there's topics, cell phones, screen time, social media, privacy and online safety. There's a whole wealth of resources available to you here as a parent. Now, we, of course, bring a lot of this into our website, and we try to make that as easy for you as possible and bring out anything that's particularly newsworthy. But I wanted to leave you with this very practical resource. So it's commonsensemedia.org, and from there you can find out about everything that your child might be doing on their device so that you are empowered to understand what the values are that underwrite the content that your child wants to consume, so that you as a parent can make sure that your child is taking on the values that are important to you as a family. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of This Week in Digital Parenting with me, Josh Ramsey, and Be in Touch. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Please continue to send in your questions via WhatsApp and via email. If you're on our live stream page, you can use that information below me. If you're not, go to www.beintouch.org.za/live and you will see our contact information there. Have a great week out there. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you next week on This Week in Digital Parenting.